The 11th episode of the first series, Thomas and the Guard, based on the story of the same name from the Railway series book, Tank Engine Thomas Again, continues the stories of Thomas the Tank Engine after he receives his branch line. Some could say it's a sequel to his original story arc, but I say it's a continuation of his story and showing what his life is like on his new branch line. Thomas the Tank Engine is enjoying his new life running a branch line, which he is very proud of and considers to be the most important part of the railway. His two coaches, Annie and Campbell, agree with him. Thomas loves his coaches very much, even though they are old and need new paint. When taking trains, both can take passengers, but Campbell can only take their luggage and the guard. Thomas and his coaches often sing to each other while taking trains, and journeys often proceed smoothly. Annie and Campbell know how important and pleasing the Fat Controller is to Thomas, and whenever he is cross, he is not cross with them. One day, Thomas waits impatiently at the station for Henry's train coming from the Loop line, which is late again, which angers him greatly. Eventually, Henry feebly arrives, complaining that his system is out of order. As far as Thomas is concerned, Henry's only problem is his own laziness.
"Where have you been, lazy bones?" asked Thomas. "Oh dear, my system is out of order. No one understands my case. You don't know what I suffer," moaned Henry. "Rubbish," said Thomas. "You're too fat. You need exercise."
Thomas, desperate to leave, starts as soon as the guard blows his whistle, but leaves the platform before the guard is aboard. The guard waves his red flag, but it's no use as Thomas is already hurrying down the line. Thomas sins to his coaches as usual, but Campbell does not sin as she is upset that her guard has been left behind. Annie is upset as well and tries to tell Thomas that the guard is missing, but he is in too much of a hurry to listen. The two coaches try to apply their brakes, but they cannot without the guard. Eventually, Thomas stops when he reaches a red signal, and he and his crew wait for the guard to tell them what the matter is. But of course he has been left behind, which only Annie and Campbell know. They finally tell Thomas once he asks. Soon the passengers notice the guard running down the tracks as fast as he can. When he reaches the train, he is very hot, has a drink to cool down and tells everyone what happened. Thomas apologises for the incident, and the guard accepts his apology and points out that the signal is dropped. Then Thomas and his coaches proceed the trip. With the guard back aboard, both Thomas and his coaches feel much better and manage to reach the end of the line in record time. Not only was this the first time the TV series focused on Thomas's branch line, but it was also the first time we get introduced to Annie and Clarabelle. I mean, obviously we saw them at the end of Thomas and the Breakdown Train, but here we get to see their actual personalities. Annie and Clarabelle are respectful to all the engines on Sodor, but most of all Gordon and Thomas. They show a kind and caring side to everyone on the railway. However, despite their kindness and sweetness, they can be stern when needed, especially Annie. There is of course one difference in this episode compared to the original book. In the book, the guard misses the train because he tripped over an old lady's umbrella, whereas in the TV series, Thomas just starts too quickly and leaves the guard behind, and there is no lady or umbrella for him to trip over, which kind of makes it funny how the guard would say it wasn't Thomas's fault when he was actually too impatient, just like in Thomas's train. But on the other hand, you can understand why they didn't include that bit. I mean, they probably didn't have the time or the budget to do it back then. And the bit of dialogue between Thomas and Henry can be quite offensive to some people, but not as much.
"You're too fat. You need exercise."
"Don't call me fat, you butt-fucking son of a bitch!"
This bit of dialogue was changed to "You're too slow" in the US dubs of the show, because apparently Americans see the word as offensive. Some of those PC nut jobs would see it as offensive as well. But people tend to forget that this was written in the 1940s and 1950s, and the TV series crew were just trying to remain faithful to the source material. So some might find it as offensive, but I personally don't see the offensive side of it. This episode was also the first time we get to hear the full version of Thomas's theme. It's just a cheerful little theme that suits Thomas's personality. It symbolises how much of a cheerful tank engine he is, and also symbolises how much of a cheeky engine he is. And as the series goes on, the theme would change every now and then just to show Thomas's personality and how he's maturing. Him leaving his guard behind is a little callback to when he leaves the full train behind at Thomas's train. It shows that while he does have his own branch line and is maturing in this series, He still has that little impatientness and cheekiness to him, but as I said, he's still young and is still learning the ropes at the moment. I also love this ending shot of Thomas when he pulls into the Farquhar station at the end of the line. I just find it funny nowadays how he looks at Annie and Cloudbell before the scene cuts to an end. Almost as if he's going to say to the coaches, "This is pretty cool. They ought to use this in the opening credits for the show." This is also the second time we get a look at Henry's illnesses. I mean, it was hinted at in Thomas's train, and then they played upon it again in this episode. But we wouldn't get the full details of what's actually wrong with Henry until a few episodes later, which we'll get to later on in Thomascember. Nothing too spectacular, it's just a fun episode that shows Thomas's adventures on his branch line. And his adventures on the branch line wouldn't end here, as there were more to come, as you'll see tomorrow.